welcome to my episode of the Lies, Lies, Lies podcast. My name is Reagan Redmon, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I have always wanted to do a podcast, so talking into a mic right now feels so awesome. I feel like, so I watched Trisha Paytas. I know that she's kind of like controversial, but I love her podcast, and I feel like I'm on it right now. I have headphones on, a mic, so I'm very excited to be your host for the next hour or so. My episode is going to be covering the, subjectivity of people's definitions of lying and how that varies situationally. So in this episode, we're going to dive into 4 different people's definitions of lying and deception and kind of see how their definition varies by context and situation. Before we get too far deep into talking about the personal definitions of lying that we're going to delve into in just a little bit, I do want to talk about the scientific definition of lying. We'll go ahead and get the boring stuff out of the way first, I guess. But I do think it's important to set up these expectations for you before you listen to some people that I know and their definitions of lying and maybe a more casual conversation around lying. So right now, the information that I'm about to reference is from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So sounds fancy, but it's basically just information that's been collected from scientific research and smart people. Okay, so I'm reading this directly from the encyclopedia website. So this is a direct quote. These are not my words. Just wanted to throw that out there. This website states that the most widely accepted definition of lying is: a lie is a statement made by one who does not believe it with the intention that someone else shall be led to believe it. Basically, that's a lot of fancy lingo for saying that a lie is something that is intentional. The word intentional is so important in the conversation of lying, and I think that I've never said the word intentional more than this last semester because of how important it is to emphasize in the conversation of lying. Back to my point, what this definition is saying is that a lie is an intentional spread of misinformation to someone else that you are trying to convince to believe this like untruthful statement or this intentional misinformation. Let's go more into it. While researching to form my interview questions, I came across an article conducted by Jensen et al. That really went into the morality behind situational lying and if the general public believes that unconditional honesty is better than lying. And it's just kind of interesting because they go into the ramifications of both and how lying and unconditional honesty can have similar, hurtful implications on people. So like if I'm unconditionally honest to you, that could hurt, but if I lie to you, that could hurt too. So they looked at the morality of people telling the lie versus being unconditionally honest in a research study. This study contained 2 control groups. The first control group was the known condition, where the people in this group knew how either being unconditionally honest or lying would hurt the person they were telling their statement to. And the second group was the unknown condition, and they did not know how the person they were either being unconditionally honest to or lying to would feel or react to their statement. They were told that somebody that they work with, their suit was, inappropriate for work. And they had to decide if they either wanted to, A, tell the employee the truth and tell them that their suit is inappropriate, B, lie and say that the suit is fine, looks good, you look good today. Those were the 2 options that the participants in the known condition had. So they knew that this person did have another student home that they could go change into. So with that, they had to decide if they were either going to tell the employee the truth, say that the suit is inappropriate, or lie to them and tell them like, hey, no, you look good today. And then the unknown group did not know that this man had another student home. So they were kind of going into it blind, whereas the known condition was not. The unknown condition had 3 options compared to the known conditions 2. They could either tell the truth, hey, that's inappropriate for work, lie, hey, you look good, ask if this person had another student home. Basically, what was concluded is that if a person knows the ramifications of their statement, whether it's a lie or the truth, if they know that it's going to hurt their feelings, if they know that they have another student home, if they don't have another student home, that has influence over the type of statement that they make. And that is why I found this research relevant to the question that I'm asking and that I'm investigating with people that I know, because people's judgments were made situationally. If they had more context, if they knew how the person would feel, their response differed from other people who did not have that same information. While I'm not necessarily looking at the morality of people's definitions of lying, I am really looking into, is your definition varying by context? Is your definition varying situationally? And I just think it's really interesting. And I feel like everybody that I interviewed had some variation in their answer and varied from mine. Aside from all the research that I just shared and all the thoughts that I have regarding empirical research and scientific conclusions and yada, 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 my broad definition of lying is intentionally sharing or leading someone to believe an untruthful statement or thought. What that means is that you have to intentionally be either like leading me to believe something. So like, I personally do think that maybe that their definition doesn't vary situationally, but I do think that there will. By that I mean that I kind of go into, in my interview questions, whether or not people are more willing to lie to a certain person, or if they're more willing to lie when things are at stake, or if they're more willing to lie to children. And I just think it does matter. I don't necessarily know if that means that your definition of lying is changing. I think that you can definitely see some differences in their answers, which makes me believe that the definition of lying is subjective. But from the answers that I got in the interviews, I honestly do not know if that necessarily means that their definition is varying situationally, or if that just means that their definition responds differently to different scenarios. Does that make sense? Like, their definition isn't necessarily changing, but it just applies differently to different scenarios and different contexts. Okay, let's get into the interview so you can hear, and then at the very end or in between, we will kind of talk about what I think about their answers and how I think it connects to research. All right, so before we begin, I'm going to add a little bit of context to each of my guests. So my first guest is my little brother, Tanner. I love him, but he is such a 16-year-old boy. So a lot of these answers are very monotoned. They're very thought through, and we're really getting that adolescent perspective of lying and deception, which is different than the other 3 guests that I have. So without further ado, here is Tanner. Okay, my first interviewee is my younger brother, Tanner. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Tanner. I'm 16. I play high school golf at Denton High School. I don't have a job.
He's jobless. Okay, we're going to go into the interview question portion of this interview, and I feel like I need to preface now by saying that we are not in character right now. Tanner's going to be truthful with his answers. Can I get a confirmation?
Yes, I will be truthful.
Okay, we had a little bit of a miscommunication, I guess, happen, so here we go. Okay, Tanner, how would you broadly define a lie?
not telling the truth and not being truthful with what you're saying.
Okay. How often do you think you lie?
Every now and then. I feel like I don't lie a whole bunch.
So would you say like once a day, once a week, if you had to give it some sort of like...
I mean, not very big lies ever. It's really small lies, but it's every maybe once a week, maybe every other day sort of thing.
Do you ever find yourself telling a lie without intentionally doing so?
Possibly, maybe like a small lie where it's like me just not knowing if I was like it's like a question of
Can you give us an example of what you're trying to say?
So like if I were to say like if someone asked me like in a round of golf, if I shot like a pin and I got like 130, or like 132, I'd just round down and say 130, but I just wouldn't like subconsciously think about that because I was just like rounding down. I wasn't telling them the exact thing.
Okay. Does the context of a lie change your feelings toward the concept of lying?
I think so. Like if it's like the situation I was just talking about where it's like a real small, like insignificant lie that doesn't really matter, then I don't think it does. But if it's a big lie, I feel like it's really if it's a big like lie, I feel like you should tell the truth rather than lie about what you're talking about.
So you feel less bad when you tell like a white lie compared to when you tell a more big, like substantial lie?
I mean, I still feel bad if I tell like a really small lie, but not as bad if it's like a really big lie that would mean something more than a little small one would.
So there's like a scale?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think your definition of lying varies situationally?
Yes, I would believe it does, because like I was just mentioning, the smaller the lie is, I feel like it doesn't mean as much in like the grand scheme of things and all of that. But if it's like I feel like telling really big lies, you shouldn't be doing that.
Okay, big lies bad, little lies okay.
Not okay, they're still bad, but just less bad.
Does the person you're lying to affect your definition of lying?
I don't think so. I feel like telling a lie is telling a lie, no matter who it is, like, that you're telling it to.
Do you think that, like, your ability to lie to somebody depends on who they are? Like, is it easier to lie to one person than another?
I don't think so, because, I mean, I don't think it really matters who you're telling it to. It's still a lie.
How do you differentiate between lying and deception?
I would say that lying is like directly telling them something that isn't true, and deception is maybe just misguiding them. I guess like lying would just be saying that like if someone cooked food for you and it was really bad and you're like, "Oh, it was great," then you're lying to them. But if it's like you're telling them a partial truth, I would say it's more of deception. You're just leading them to a different conclusion, I guess.
Okay. So do you ever do that with mom's cooking?
No, definitely not.
Okay, now we're shifting gears and we're going to do situational based questions. So I'm going to give Tanner a scenario and he's going to tell us if he thinks that it's a lie, or I guess maybe how he would respond in the situation. All right, first one. When answering "how are you" during small talk with an acquaintance or stranger, you answer "good" when you're actually feeling upset or having a rough day. Do you consider this a lie?
I would say yes, that is a lie. Because you're not telling them how you're actually feeling, and they were asking you how your day was, and you said a lie. You weren't being truthful about how your day was.
So do you find yourself telling this type of lie?
No. I don't talk to strangers.
Okay. A friend confided a secret to you that was deeply personal. Later in the day, a mutual friend asks you about the secret, wanting an answer. You tell the mutual friend that you do not know anything about the lie and that you don't feel comfortable talking about the friend when they're not present. Do you consider this a lie?
I believe that saying that you don't know anything about it is a lie, but being like, I feel like the second part of it was being really truthful, not being comfortable talking about them when they're not there.
One of your classmates was disrespectful to the substitute teacher when your teacher was out for the day. When the teacher returns to school, there's a note from the sub that says a student acted disrespectfully by calling out and sitting in seats that were not assigned to them. You know which classmate it was. The teacher then asks the entire class if they know who the student was that the substitute was referring to. You do not share and remain silent during the discussion, even though you know the answer to this question. Do you consider this a lie?
I don't believe that it's a lie. I just think that it's not like answering the question. It's not saying a wrong answer to the question that they're asking. It's just not answering it at all.
So do you think that this scenario kind of falls more into deception than it does lying?
Yeah, I would say so.
You just met your new partner's parents for the first time. They are loud and do not align with your political standings. Or let's just say, like, for you, like, I don't know, like, what's something you care about?
Sports teams.
Okay, they hate the sports team that you like. You did not get a great first impression because they rambled on about how bad your favorite sports team was and spoke obnoxiously to the server. When you get back to the car after dinner, your partner asks if you liked them. You answer, yes, they were lovely, because you know that's what your partner wants to hear. Do you consider this a lie?
Yes. I would say that that's a pretty big lie to tell, and that I feel like that they would want to hear the truth about how you actually feel about it rather than saying what they want to hear.
So what about questions where it's like, hey, do you think I look good in this dress? When obviously they're looking for reassurance, like you know what they want to hear.
I think that you would tell them the truth if you think they do or not.
You implement the dramatic play stories of Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy into your child's childhood. Do you consider this a lie?
I would say that's more of a deception, because you're not necessarily saying that, like, it's not like answering a question wrong. It's just saying that something is something when it's not something.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for the details. You are a first grade teacher, and there is an unknown person on your campus that has put your classroom into lockdown. To keep the students calm, you tell them that they're going to play the quiet game and the winner gets a treat from the treasure box. When they start to stir in angst, you tell them, there's nothing to worry about. We're safe, even though you know this could possibly be untrue. Do you consider this a lie? Okay, sorry, that was my dog. We're not going to restart, so just everybody say hi to Archie.
I believe that's more of a deception because, I mean, it's kind of in between a lie and deception, but if something like that were to happen, I feel like it's more beneficial for the teacher to make sure that the students are calm, just in case if that were to happen.
Our apologies, we were having some technical difficulties, but we have since fixed the issue. Your family pet just passed away in a tragic way. Rest in peace, Aiden and Remy. To spare your child of the brutal details, you tell them that the pet got sick and passed away peacefully. Although you explain the pet died, you did not give them the accurate details of the way the pet was killed. Do you consider this a lie?
I feel like that's more of deception because you are telling them what actually happened. Like, that maybe not the full extent of what happened, but you are telling them that your pet had passed away.
Stand-up comedians often exaggerate stories or make up funny scenarios for their bits. Is this a lie?
I would say that it is a lie, yes. Yeah.
Okay, to wrap up Tanner's interview and get him out of the hot seat, we're going to play a quick round of 2 truths and a lie. Tanner, ready to go.
I have 2 family pets.
Just any
One
fact.
of them is a hamster. I like plants.
You don't like plants, and one of them isn't a hamster. So, okay, you just played the game wrong, but we're concluding his interview. Say bye.
Bye.
After hearing that, I I'm gathering, and I'm hoping that you are too, that Tanner thinks that lying is wrong. So I felt like after any situation that I gave to him, after like any perspective that I tried to alter, his answer was always just, no, lying is wrong. And I thought that was really interesting because we are getting the adolescent perspective from Tanner because he is 16, because he is still in high school, and because he kind of has like a warped perception of reality because he is still a child. After I heard that, I did some research about children's lying behavior, and right now I'm referencing a research article conducted by Victoria Talwar and Kang Lee, where they dove into the social and cognitive development of children and how that affects their willingness to lie. Their lie-telling abilities aren't as believable or as effective as adults. All of that being said, it's kind of conducted and found in this research that children are less likely to lie than adults because of the ramifications that they experience from lying. They have more consequences to lose if they lie to a parent or a teacher than an adult does to their employer. Or, like their social abilities to lie are less than an adult's. So the lie that they're telling isn't believable because they don't have the social skills yet to conduct a lie that alters somebody's perspective. I know that Tanner's a little bit older, and this research pertains to, I think it said 3 to 12. So Tanner is definitely a little bit older than 12, but I did think it was interesting just to get the child's perspective because it's so different than the adult answers that you're going to hear in just a little bit. So this next guest is my dad, Tim. Just some context of Tim that he does not give you. Tim is it's where Tanner gets it from, but Tim is a very black and white person, just meaning that his philosophy, if you will, is this is either right or wrong. There's really no gray area. There's no like maybe. And so it was interesting getting his perspective because I knew that about him. So I thought that I knew how a lot of his answers were going to sound, and you'll see what I mean. All right, now we have our second interviewee in the studio. This is Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Tim. I'm 43 years old. I have 2 children. I just started a new career where I'm a teacher. Prior to that, I worked in a completely different industry for about 20 years.
I don't know if I said it or not, but he's my dad. How would you broadly define a lie?
It's telling something to someone that's not true with the intent to deceive them.
How often do you tell lies?
I don't know. It honestly probably depends on the day. Sometimes it's a little more useful to be able to do it than others.
Do you ever find yourself telling a lie without intentionally doing it?
No, not usually. If I do choose to tell a lie, it's pretty intentional.
Do you think your definition of lying varies situationally?
Maybe not the definition of it, but whether or not I'm okay with it and think it's justified, yes.
Does the person you're lying to affect your willingness to lie?
Yeah.
How do you differentiate between lying and deception?
I don't know that there's much differentiation between them. Like I said earlier, you're lying to somebody with the intention of deceiving them. So, the lie is kind of the method by which you're deceiving them and trying to get them to believe something that you want them to believe.
Okay, now we're going into situational based questions. So you'll just answer, I guess, yes or no, and then maybe give some context. Okay. When answering how are you during small talk with an acquaintance or a stranger, you answer good when you're actually feeling upset or having a rough day. Do you consider this a lie?
No, I really don't consider it a lie. Generally, I also think the reason that they're going to ask me how are you is more of a kind of pleasantry, just as something to say as a greeting. And they generally probably don't really want to hear a whole lot about how my day is going and how I feel. So it's more of just kind of how people interact and greet one another more so than it is somebody wanting to really hear me talk about it.
You implement the dramatic play stories of Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy into your child's childhood. Do you consider this a lie?
I mean, technically it's a lie, but it's one of those things where it's kind of a white lie. It's a lie that you do for a good reason. Most parents are doing it because they're trying to create, an enjoyable kind of experience for their children. Something that makes that time of year a little more fun and kind of magical for them. So the intention for, why you're choosing to do it, I think says a lot about, kind of whether or not it's something that's good or bad to do.
You're a first grade teacher, or I guess you could be a PE teacher. You're a PE teacher.
Yep.
And there's an unknown person on your campus that has put your classroom or gym into lockdown. To keep the students calm, you tell them that you're going to play the quiet game and the winner gets a treat from the treasure box. When they start to stir in angst, you tell them there's nothing to worry about. We're safe, even though you know this could possibly be untrue. Do you consider this a lie?
No. I mean, it's another one where, it kind of is technically, but it's one that's a well-intentioned lie. It's definitely much better than the alternative of letting your children remain noisy and allow, a potentially dangerous situation to befall you in your classroom. So, it's one of those things where I wouldn't have a problem doing that, and it's something that I definitely would do if that situation arose.
Your family pet just passed away in a tragic way. To spare your child of the brutal details, you tell them that the pet got sick and passed away peacefully. Although you explained that the pet died, you did not give them accurate details of how the pet was killed. Do you consider this a lie?
Not really. I told them the truth and gave them, an explanation of what did happen. What did happen to the pet is true as far as it's deceased and no longer with us. The potentially, gory details of it, I guess, like let's say your dog got hit by a car. Depending on the age of your child, that's something you would probably want to spare them from a little bit because they may not be developmentally ready to deal with that type of information, and it may make it more traumatic for them. So as a parent, you're trying to minimize those things as much.
Eyewitnesses often fabricate the crime that they witnessed because of an altered perspective or from attempting to be helpful to the victim or law enforcement. Do you consider this a lie?
No, because I think in those scenarios like that you're describing, they believe they're telling the truth. It's more of a they're not telling the truth because they're intending to deceive you. They're not telling the truth because they were placed in a stressful situation where maybe they weren't as observant as they otherwise would have been, and some of the facts of what happened kind of get muddled in their brain, and they're doing the best they can to recount the actual situation, but sometimes, it's not the most reliable.
A man is insecure about his appearance and uses a Photoshop app to give himself facial hair and abs in a picture for his dating website profile. Do you consider this lying or deceitful?
Yeah, I would. You're portraying something to somebody for the purpose of trying to attract them to, go out on a date with you or something like that. And obviously when they meet you, they're going to see that that isn't true. Especially in a scenario like that, if you're, seeking to start a relationship with somebody or meet them for the first time, the best first impression that you probably could make would be to be truthful and let them see who you are firsthand, as opposed to the very first time they meet you and see you, it turns out that you lied to them before you even actually met in person.
No catfishes.
So, yep, no catfishing.
A rumor circulated around your school that one of your peers was pregnant. You heard this and told your tight friend group about what you had found out. After a couple of months, it gets out that she was never pregnant and someone lied to embarrass her. Do you consider what you shared to your friend group a lie?
So in that scenario, I would say it turned out not to be true. If I was sharing information that I believed to be true at the time, I don't necessarily consider it as a lie that I, made up and told with the intent to deceive somebody, because I already said that's kind of what I believe a lie to be. So there's no intention for deceit there. So I don't really think it's a lie. I think it's misinformation. But I would say that, it's pretty irresponsible to do something like that, and I generally don't tend to, gossip about those types of things. It's generally not my business, and I don't get involved in that. So
I be gossiping. Now we're going to do 2 truths and a lie. Ready, set, go.
okay, I lost my hair starting at the age of 19. My daughter's dogs are really annoying. And I cooked dinner tonight.
Okay, we'll give you a second to think. I know which one is the lie. It was the cooking dinner.
It was.
We did an independent hamburger. So this next guest is my mom, Miss Amanda. Me and my mom have a very bantery relationship. We're very playful, so it was very hard to take something like this serious. And it took multiple takes because Miss Mandy Girl thought that it was funny to talk into a mic. So, without further ado, here is my mom, Amanda. Side note, I do like a British accent when I'm nervous, I think. So I feel like I've done that throughout this whole thing, and I'm so sorry if that's, like, annoying or, like, is it good? Okay, if you listen to this, tell me if my accent is good. Our third interviewee has entered the studio. Entered the hot seat. This is my mom, my queen. All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow, with that entrance. My name is Amanda. I'm 45, I believe, something like that. I am a special education teacher, and this is my second year doing it.
All right, into the interview questions. How would you broadly define a lie?
An untruth.
Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much so. Not telling the truth.
How often do you tell a lie?
Probably a lot more than I should.
Do you ever find yourself telling a lie without intentionally doing it?
No, I think I know I'm doing it. Mainly to spare like someone else's feelings and be careful, but no, it's not unknown.
Do you think your definition of lying varies situationally?
I guess it could, like for the reason that you're lying, because if you're doing it to protect someone else, or you're doing it to keep someone else safe, or you're doing it not to hurt someone else's feelings, yes, it's still a lie, but it's for, I guess, a good reason.
Does the person you're lying to affect your willingness to lie?
Yes.
How do you differentiate between lying and deception?
I guess they're close to the same thing, because you're deceiving someone by lying or not giving them the whole truth. So they're pretty close.
My group in class decided that, like, as a table, we said that lying is deception, but deception isn't always lying. Like the square rectangle
talk right there.
Yeah. All right, now we're moving into the situational based questions. So I'm going to give you a scenario, and your job is just to respond to if it's a lie, and I guess maybe provide context to why your answer was that.
So I don't get like little paddles that say yes, correct, and correct.
No, you're going to use your words on this one.
I'm going to use my words like a big girl. Got it.
Okay. When answering how are you during small talk with an acquaintance or stranger, you answer good when you're actually feeling upset or having a rough day. Is this a lie?
I guess technically yes, but I feel like if I tell them how I'm really feeling, then there's a whole lot of other questions involved, and I don't really want to answer all those questions. Sometimes I just say it so we can do pleasant greetings and then move along. I don't think they're really asking how I truly am.
So what if it's somebody that you're close to? Like, what if Tim asked or I asked or...
I would tell them how I was feeling, but normally you can look at me and tell how I'm feeling.
A friend confided a secret to you that was deeply personal. Later in the day, a mutual friend asks you about the secret, wanting an answer. You tell the mutual friend that you do not know anything about the lie and that you do not feel comfortable talking about the friend. Do you consider this a lie?
So I guess the first part was a lie, saying you didn't know anything about it. So most likely I would just say, I don't feel comfortable talking about it. And then just leave that other part off.
One of your classmates was disrespectful to the substitute teacher when your teacher was out for the day. When the teacher returns to school, there is a note from the sub that says a student acted disrespectfully by calling out and sitting in seats that were not assigned to them. You know which classmate it was. The teacher then asks the entire class if they know who the student was, and you choose not to share and remain silent during the discussion, even though you know the answer to the question. Is this lying?
think I would say no, because it's kind of for self-preservation at that point, because you don't want to be the one that told and they didn't directly ask you. But snitches get stitches.
Straight up. You implement the dramatic play stories of Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy into your child's childhood. Do you consider this a lie? We had all those things.
I know. Yes, I guess it is a little white lie, but it's for the entertainment of your child, and it's meant in a good place. But we never went like overboard, over the top, and added to the story. Oh, and except for that time with the footprints and the buttons. But other than that, we never went overboard.
Well, I have no recollection of what you're talking about.
Thank goodness. So apparently we did not go over the top enough.
Or maybe I just blocked it out because it was dramatic that you lied to me.
Oh, yeah, I feel bad.
You're a first grade teacher, and there's an unknown person on your campus that put your classroom into lockdown. To keep the students calm, you tell them that they're going to play the quiet game, and the winner gets a treat from the treasure box. When they start to stir in angst, you tell them there's nothing to worry about and that you're safe, even though you know this could possibly be untrue. Is this lying?
Oh, yeah, I've done it quite a few times. I mean, just because for the children, they don't need to know that. They don't need to worry. They don't need to have to worry about next steps and things like that. Keeping them calm is the most important piece, and then you are making the decision and figuring it out at that point.
Your family pet just passed away in a tragic way. To spare your child of the brutal details, you tell them that the pet got sick and passed away peacefully. Although you explain that the pet died, you did give them inaccurate details of the way the pet was killed. Do you consider this a lie?
No, because it wasn't appropriate for the child at that point. Yes, they needed to know that the pet passed away, but they didn't need to know the details of other than that. I mean, they don't need that visual.
Stand-up comedians often exaggerate stories or make up funny scenarios for their bits. Do you consider this a lie?
Oh, it's a form of storytelling.
So even like, what if it wasn't a stand-up comedian? What if it was me and something happened at my job that was funny, but I added a detail that made
You
it even...
embellished it.
I embellished. Is that lying?
It's exaggerating. I guess it depends if you're talking about me or not.
A rumor circulated around your school that one of your peers was pregnant. You heard this and told your tight friend group what you had found out. After a couple of months, it gets out that she was never pregnant and someone lied to embarrass her. Do you consider what you shared to your friend group a lie?
That's called gossiping and spilling the tea. You're not supposed to do that.
Is it a lie, though?
Well, it wasn't true, but you didn't know that at the time. I don't know. I guess it was a lie in hindsight, but at the time, you were just running your mouth and you probably shouldn't have been.
All right. To conclude our interview, we're going to do another round of two truths and a lie. We're ready for you.
Okay. Here they are. I had a pet hamster as a kid. I have always wanted to teach kindergarten. And my next baby name would have been Emma if we had another one.
Do you have your guess? What was the answer?
You don't know the answer?
I mean, I do, but I was going to give you the floor.
The last one. No, Emma.
You want to teach kindergarten?
I always wanted to teach kindergarten.
What?
That's what I was hired for at the other school, and then it ended up I had to switch.
Okay, well,
I just never quite made it back.
Well, I thought that was the lie.
Oh. There's not going to be an Emma in our family either.
Well, thank God. I guess say bye. You're done.
Goodbye. I'm done.
My last interviewee is my partner, Jonah. Me and Jonah have been together for quite some time now, so a lot of his answers I feel like I could have answered for him. He is very introverted. He's very shy, so this is out of his comfort zone. So if you will, I know he can't hear you, but it's a thought that counts. Give him a round of applause because period king, you did that. You did that. Okay, I'll let you meet Jonah. Our fourth and final interviewee has entered the studio. I have Jonah here with me. Jonah is my romantic partner, if you will. I guess we could say boyfriend. I don't know why I'm being weird. This is Jonah.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am in college at UNT. I am a sports management major, and I enjoy sports and video games.
How old are you?
I am 21.
How would you broadly define a lie?
I would broadly define a lie as somebody withholding the truth on purpose.
How often do you tell a lie?
Not very often. I would consider myself a pretty honest person.
Do you ever find yourself telling a lie without intentionally doing it?
Very rarely. I am a socially awkward person, so sometimes I just get awkward and I'll say something that is just not true.
Well, something that I was thinking about was, like, whenever you're telling a story and people are laughing, you kind of, like, naturally embellish the story to, like, keep up the laughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like you're not, like, intentionally lying when you do that, but you are lying.
Right.
Right? Do you think your definition of lying varies situationally?
I would say no.
Does the person you're lying to affect your willingness to lie?
Yes, definitely. I think if it's somebody that I'm not nearly as close to, it's a lot easier for me to tell a lie to that person.
How do you differentiate between lying and deception?
I would say lying is withholding the truth on purpose, whereas deception is trying to make somebody think something other than the truth.
Now we're going to move into the situational questions. So I'm going to basically, like, paint a picture for you of a situation, and you're going to answer if you think that, like, you or the person was lying in the scenario, and I guess give some context as to why you chose that answer. Okay, we got a nod of approval, so we're going to move forward. When answering, how are you? During small talk with an acquaintance or stranger, you answer good when you are actually feeling upset or having a rough day. Do you consider this a lie?
I would consider that a lie because you are withholding the truth from them.
But do you think they really want to know the answer?
I would say that somebody that truly does care about you would like to know the answer.
One of your classmates was disrespectful to the substitute teacher when your teacher was out for the day. When the teacher returns to school, there's a note from the sub that says a student acted disrespectfully by calling out and sitting in seats that were not assigned to them. You know which classmate it was. The teacher then asked the entire class if they know who the student was that the substitute was referring to. You do not share and remain silent during the discussion, even though you know the answer to the question. Is this a lie?
I would not consider that a lie just because I think that you were quiet the whole time, so you didn't really tell a lie, if you will. You just kept quiet.
You are withholding the truth.
You are, but you're not talking.
So do you think you would consider that deception?
I think I would consider that closer to deception than a lie.
You just met your partner's parents for the first time. They are loud and do not align with your political standings. You did not get a great first impression because they rambled on about politics and spoke obnoxiously to your server. When you get back to the car after dinner, your partner asks if you like them. You answer, yes, they were lovely, because you know that's what your partner wants to hear. Is this a lie?
Yes, I would 100% consider that a lie. As with somebody that you are partners with, you need to be open and honest with them, and I feel like in that sense that would be a blatant lie.
Have you ever told this lie?
No.
You implement the dramatic play stories of Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy into your child's childhood. Is this a lie?
I 100% think this is a lie, as you are making your kids believe that there are people that are real that aren't real.
Do you think the lie is justified?
I do think it is justified. I think that is a good tradition to have.
So if you had kids, you think that you would lie to them about Santa?
I do.
So you condone lying to your children?
In that sense, yes.
You are a first grade teacher, and there's an unknown person on your campus that put your classroom into lockdown. To keep the students calm, you tell them they're going to play the quiet game, and the winner gets a treat from the treasure box. When they start to stir in angst, you tell them, there's nothing to worry about, we're safe. Even though you know this could possibly be untrue. Do you consider this a lie?
I would consider that deception, as at that very moment, there might not be something to worry about or be cautious about, but there is possibly a threat outside that they could be worried about. However, I do not think that would be the kid's job to worry about that, but rather the teacher's.
Your family pet just passed away in a graphic, tragic way. To spare your child of the brutal details, you tell them that the pet got sick and passed away peacefully. Although you explained that the pet died, you didn't give them accurate details of the way the pet was killed. Do you consider this lying?
I would consider this deception, as you are letting them know that the pet did die, but you're not telling them how it did die. So you're kind of deceiving them in a way, saying that it died peacefully when it really didn't.
Your mom knows that you have homework due every Friday morning. So Thursday evening after dinner, she asked you if you have started on your weekly homework assignments. You haven't, but you're not worried about the small amount of time that you have to get them done. Even though that you don't feel uncomfortable with your procrastination, you know your mom would be upset if she knew you hadn't started. You say, I only have a little bit left to go. It shouldn't be too big of a deal to finish it tonight. Is this lying?
I do think this is lying at this point because you have not started your assignments at all, and you're saying that you had. I can personally say that I've done this plenty of times, and it helps.
Well, whenever I was coming up with these questions, this one was inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
Stand-up comedians often exaggerate stories to make up funny scenarios for their bits. Do you consider this lying?
No, I would consider this embellishment or deception, if you will. The story that they're telling may be true, but it is exaggerated.
Eyewitnesses often fabricate the crime that they witnessed because of an altered perspective or from attempting to be helpful to the victim or law enforcement. Is this lying?
I do not think this is lying in this sense, and I would also not consider this deception. I think this is them trying to help and them just not being able to remember.
A rumor circulated around your high school that one of your peers was pregnant, I feel like that rumor circulates pretty often. That's like a pretty realistic.
Yeah.
You heard this and told your tight friend group what you had found out. After a couple months, it gets out that she was never pregnant and someone lied to embarrass her. That's rude.
That is pretty messed up.
Do you consider what you shared to your friend group a lie?
I do not. I think that you were, maybe spreading misinformation, but you were not purposefully doing so.
Last scenario question.
All right.
Make it a good answer.
I'll try.
A man is insecure about his appearance and uses a Photoshop app to give himself facial hair and abs for his dating website profile. Is this lying?
I think this is deception. I think that they're deceiving people in what they look like.
So what if it's less dramatic? Like in my Instagram photos, I always whiten my teeth. Or like if I have like a huge pimple, like I'll smooth it out. Is that the same?
Yeah, I would consider that deception as well.
Like to the same extent as the man in the example?
Maybe not to the same extent, but I think they are both deceiving people on their appearance.
Well, I'm still going to continue to whiten my teeth.
You do you.
All right, so to wrap up your time in the hot seat, we're going to do a round of 2 truths and a lie.
Okay, so here are my 3.
Okay.
I have been out of the country. I have had a staph infection. And I am 6'5".
What is your answer?
My lie is I am 6'5".
Dun, dun, dun. He's 6'7". Just kidding.
No, I am only 6 foot, but I still passed 6 foot, so I'm happy about that.
Hey, short kings are kings too.
That is true. That is true.
That concludes our time together in the studio.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, say bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. After hearing all of these answers, it's a lot of information to take in and a lot of information to hear. I talked about a little bit earlier how I wasn't sure if their definitions were really varying situationally or if their definition of lying was just different than others. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that how I would respond in a situation is different than how the person next to me would respond. And that doesn't necessarily mean that our definitions of lying vary situationally. That just may mean that our definitions of lying are different. And the reason that I concluded this from my interviews was because Tanner found that lying is bad. He just didn't want to do it. A lot of his answers were no, that's not yet, or yes, that is a lie. No, I wouldn't do that. Yes, that's lying. Or yes, I wouldn't do that. So it was just really interesting to see that, because that differs from mine. A lot of the situations that he said, okay, that's lying. Like I wouldn't necessarily consider it a lie. I would consider it more deception, and like appropriate deception. But it was funny to hear his perspective. And then listening to my mom and Tim, they're very similar, which doesn't surprise me, because listening to their broad definition of lying, I felt like I could predict how they were going to answer the situational questions. So because of that, I do think, summing it all up, I think that the definition of lying does not necessarily vary situationally or by context, but I do think that the definition of lying is subjective to an individual. Okay, so I'm sure 58 minutes in, almost 59 minutes in, you're tired of hearing my voice, and I appreciate you listening this long. This is like I want to start my own podcast now. I love talking into a mic, and I love putting the headphones on and hearing my voice, and I feel like, I know this is my second time saying it, but I feel so like official right now. I feel like an influencer, and I'm loving it. Okay, but in all seriousness, thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast and listen to an amateur interviewer and listen to my crazy thoughts about lying and deception. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope that listeners enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed putting this together. Okay, so with that, I am ending the podcast. Thank you for listening. Bye. Signing out.